So today we have with us John Commerford, Executive Director of the NRA-ILA. Hey, John, thanks so much for joining us today. How are you doing?
I'm great. Thanks for having me. Really
Uh,
appreciate it.
John, congratulations on your recent appointment as Executive Director of the NRA-ILA. I believe in December you were appointed as the interim Executive Director, and it was just recently made a permanent appointment. Is that correct?
That's correct. Doug Hamlin appointed me at the beginning of December as the interim executive director, and then right at the start of the year, the interim title was removed, and I was made the permanent executive director of the Institute for Legislative Action.
So before we get into too many of the NRA specific questions, can you tell us a little bit about your history with firearms? I hear you like sporting clays. Did someone introduce you, or were you brought up around firearms?
Sure. Yeah, it's I have a history with firearms. I started working at a gun club in my hometown at a younger age, M&M Sporting Clays, where I was really kind of introduced more to shooting by one of the individuals that owns the farm there, Anthony Matarese, who's a pro shooter. Some of your readers and listeners may recognize that name, but we've been friends since we were in kindergarten. And I started as a trapper on the Sporting Clays course there, and I still help them. So you can find me there at big events. But he really helped get me into shooting and hunting as well. I'm much more into bird hunting, but I do some big game hunting, mainly whitetail, things like that. So also like to get out and run my dog on some pheasants. But I am an active competitive sporting clays shooter. I was the chairman of the National Sporting Clays Association. I helped them on their board for a long time. Also, active pistol and AR shooter as well. So really, there isn't a firearm that I don't like to shoot.
Oh, that's great. The whole spectrum.
That's right. That's exactly right.
Okay, good. So what led you to become a working member of the NRA as opposed to just a general member?
So I actually applied for an internship at the NRA back in 2007. It was actually a first mate on a fishing boat, and I cold called NRA because I needed an internship for the college program I was doing in DC, and the rest is history. So I was able to get that internship. I did a good enough job there where I was asked at the time by some staff around Chris Cox, around his executive office in the Institute for Legislative Action. I interviewed as a staff assistant there, and then kind of worked my way up. I called it a sabbatical, but I did a 2-year break at NRA and went to a firearms manufacturer where I was assistant general manager, and then came back and went right into lobbying. I really wanted to get back into the fight to protect the Second Amendment, and I've been back here for 12 or 13 years so since I took that break. But we have an incredible team here at ILA and an incredible team NRA wide, both paid staff and our volunteers. It takes a lot of effort to do everything that NRA does because we have not only just the legislative and lobbying and political side of NRA here at ILA, but what we're really known for as well is all the great programs, instructors, Eddie the Eagle, all of our hunter education, free hunter education program. There's a ton of things that NRA is involved in.
That's great. When we were out in Harrisburg at the show, my son spent a good bit of time in the Eddie Eagle tent. They have such a tremendous amount of educational and safety-based resources for children, and he was very happy to walk away with a stuffed Eddie the Eagle.
The stuffed Eddie the Eagle is a very popular item. We're trying to do an all hands on deck approach here at NRA. I think you may have saw me at the Wall of Guns helping our Friends of NRA program. They haven't asked me to wear the Eddie the Eagle costume yet, but I'm sure it's coming.
Yep, and I did see you running the Wall of Guns, and you looked like you were enjoying yourself. How many firearms do you think were given away over the course of 9 days?
My gosh, I don't know the exact number. However, I do know on the day that I worked, we hit the record for the show, which I believe was 37 or 38 rounds of the Wall of Guns. So for those listeners who don't know, on the Wall of Guns, which you can do at our Great American Outdoor Show. You can do at our annual meeting. There's a 1 in 100 chance of winning a firearm of your choice. And there's more than 40 firearms to choose from on that wall. There's also a cash prize option, but it's pretty good odds where it's $10 a ticket at Harrisburg, and it's $20 a ticket at our annual meeting. But there's different levels of firearms there, so it's pretty good odds, and it goes for a great cause. I mean, as you know, Friends of NRA, that's where we do grants to shooting teams. We paid for the ammo for USA Shooting for their training over the last quad. Grants to law enforcement departments, and of course, everybody knows the great Friends of NRA dinners in your local community.
Yep, excellent. Yeah, all great causes. I was definitely disappointed not to win, but glad that my money is going to a good place.
You'll just
So,
have to see us in Atlanta for another chance.
for our audience members who may not be aware, can you explain how the role of the NRA-ILA differs from the NRA as a whole?
Sure. So the Institute for Legislative Action was founded in 1975. We're coming into our 50th year of existence, and that happened during a point at NRA for transition where the importance of protecting the Second Amendment and the efforts of lobbying and influencing elections was really brought to the forefront. So the Institute for Legislative Action was created to lead that fight. In simple terms, we provide a voice for our members at state capitals, at the U.S. Capitol, in the courts, and even at the UN, and everything that goes around that. So passing pro-gun legislation, defeating anti-gun legislation, all of the cases, the Bruin case, for instance, that came from the Institute for Legislative Action. And then under ILA's purview is the NRA Political Victory Fund. So the NRA Political Victory Fund is the entity where we can only solicit funds from our members. That's why you may see some emails or mail with my signature on it asking for support for that entity and our members who really go above and beyond to support that. But that's the entity where we can give direct contributions to candidates. That's the entity that pays for those orange postcards that are so effective that go and land in your mailboxes before Election Day. It pays for ads. It's really what gives you that amplification of the member's voice come election time. So we issue roughly 7,000 ratings nationwide in a major election year, and we endorse just a hair over 3,000 candidates in the 2024 election with a win rate of approximately 90%. So
Wow.
all of those entities fall under the purview of ILA. In addition to a C3 tax-deductible entity called the Freedom Action Foundation, supports our civil rights Second Amendment litigation and our voter registration program. So we have a lot of branches that come off under ILA.
Thank you, John. So you mentioned that you've been with the NRA since 2007. What would you say is the most significant change you've seen during your time there?
There's been a monumental shift just here in the last year. You know, we have Doug Hamlin, who came in as our new CEO. Everyone knows, you know, Wayne LaPierre was with the organization for 4 decades. However, you know, the last few years there's been a little bit of turmoil with the New York case. Now, don't get me wrong, that New York case was brought because the NRA helped Donald Trump win the White House in 2016. And Letitia James campaigned on putting the NRA out of business. She called us a terrorist organization. She campaigned on taking down Donald Trump. And where were we? We were in the courtroom right next door to President Trump in that exact same courthouse, fighting the same fight. Now, were there things that NRA could have done differently? Absolutely. We all know that. But they're being done now. There's a commitment to good governance. We have a chief compliance officer here. We do internal auditing, external auditing, and Doug is leading by example. You know, Doug and I have been on the road a lot here in the last 60 days, and we're not flying private. You know, I think the last flight we took, I was in row 32 middle. So we're staying at Fairfield Inns and Courtyards and things like that. We're not at the Four Seasons, and Marriott's a pro-gun property company, so we like Marriott's. But our members can rest assured that every precious resource and those dollars that they give to us, and they go above and beyond, and we're grateful for it. But those dollars are going right into the fight. The days of expensive, lavish items, that's behind us. So I think that's the biggest change I've seen since I've worked here. From a legislative standpoint, obviously, even during those years, the fight never stopped in Iowa. We got to 29 states for constitutional carry. We had the Heller case, we had the McDonald case, now we had the Bruin case, which really has changed the Second Amendment battlefield for litigation and how we approach this issue and restoring the rights of our members. So we've had a storied history at NRA. We've done a lot of incredible things, Protection of Lawful Commerce and Arms Act. There's plenty out there, but this monumental shift that's occurred in the last 12 months for NRA with a whole new leadership team, it's something that our members can be proud of again, and it gives us something to talk about when we reintroduce ourselves to the American gun owner.
So yeah, it definitely sounds like the NRA has turned over a new leaf, and more of our dollars are going to be going into the fight. What would you say the NRA position on transparency and accountability to its members is?
To come to Atlanta on April 25th through the 27th to be at our annual meeting, not only for the firearms you're going to see and all the fun we're going to have, but come to the members meeting. Make your voice heard. You're a part of this process as well, and you can ask us tough questions and get involved in the process. I think another way to get involved in the process is your ballot for your board of directors. Your NRA board of directors is in your magazine currently. If you didn't get your ballot and you're a qualified voting member, please reach out to NRA and we can make sure you get that. But if you're a 5-year consecutive annual member or a life member or above, you have an ability to have your voice heard through our board of directors election. And as everyone here knows, we have a very large board, and a third is up every year. But there's been a renewed interest in running for the board. So from a staff standpoint, we don't get involved in picking certain candidates, but we can encourage our membership to get involved in the process and cast a ballot. So being an active member is a good thing. But you will see commitment to transparency. I think you've seen some of that in our most recent board meetings, which they haven't been cloaked in the same level of secrecy that sometimes have happened in the past. Sometimes that was necessary on sensitive legal items, but I think you will see a much more openness and inclusivity with having our members involved.
When we were at the invite-only meeting at the NRA show in Harrisburg 2 weekends ago, there was an NRA instructor who stood up during the Q&A and asked the panel, or told the panel about disgruntled students who are current or former members. What would be your response to that group of people?
Look, first, when's the last time we saw the media write a positive story about NRA? That thing is not going to change. It's like the sun coming up in the east. They only write the negative. So, and there's been a lot of negatives. Again, some of that was self-inflicted, some wasn't. However, when you face that type of media coverage, sometimes it is tough to get that message across. So I really appreciate you taking the time to talk with me about this and others in the pro-gun news media community. So you look at his direct question was, there's some disgruntled folks out there, and I could see why. But the key is having our industry partners, having those in the news media on the Second Amendment side, and just getting out there and doing town halls as much as we can to tell our members, they can be proud of their NRA, and they can also tell their friends. I think I had mentioned to him directly in my remarks that he is the reason we're going to get our membership back. Having that town hall in and of itself can give him confidence when he's talking to his students that check out NRA again. All of those things that they're accused of are done. They're in the past. The New York case is over. They have new leadership, and they're committed to the core programs that NRA is known for, and also expanding your Second Amendment rights, which ILA does every day. So I think it's good for folks in this community and all the new gunners out there to know that NRA is something they can be proud of again, and we're willing to work to earn back that trust. We didn't get this organization into this situation overnight. We're not going to get out of it overnight. But the only commitment you can have from me and also from Doug is that we are dedicated to restoring that confidence from the American gun owner in this great organization.
The Executive Director of NRA-ILA, what's your position on working with other Second Amendment groups?
I think if you look at some of the most recent pieces of litigation that we filed, we challenged the excise tax in Colorado. We have another case in Pennsylvania under 21 with some of the other gun groups. We're absolutely willing to work with Second Amendment Foundation, FPC, NSSF. We've added Joe Greenlee to our litigation counsel staff. He runs that operation. We had a really good attorney before Joe named Mike Jean, who did great work on behalf of our membership, and he moved on and opened up an opportunity to bring Joe in and really jumpstart our litigation operation. So you've seen lots of amicus briefs being filed, lots of cases being filed, NRA's name actually on the cases, and most of these new cases we're working together with SAF and FPC, and in other cases with NSSF. So there's a lot of active litigation out there now where NRA has been footing the whole bill or a big chunk of the bill, but our name's not on the case. So you have like the Rhodey case, Duncan case in California, a bunch of work in the Ninth Circuit where NRA's name isn't actually on the case. So for some folks, it's hard for them to put two and two together that, no, NRA really, this is their case. They funded this from inception, and we're continuing to fund them until they're over. But we're absolutely willing to work with any pro-gun group out there who wants to work with us.
So I've got a question here from Joe Laporto. He's a contributor at News2A. He's an attorney. He's the director of legal operations at the New Jersey Firearm Owners Syndicate. And he has two questions. So the first, and I'll let you answer, and then I'll ask the second one. The first one is, based on open secrets data, lobbying and outside political spending by the NRA declined from 2020 to 2024. With the litigation affecting NRA behind us, and with membership levels stabilizing, can we expect a reversal of this trend?
I think you're going to see a renewed investment into ILA's efforts. We're currently doing that on the general operations side with all of our core programs, but on the ILA side as well. Part of that, too, what you can look at on that reporting is you'll see 1 year NRA spent $3.5 million in the second quarter, and that was opposing David Chipman's nomination to the ATF. So that investment there with getting the word out to members and gun owners, that gets reported on a lobbying report. There's other groups out there that report 100% of their staff's time in order to pad the numbers and get their numbers up. We don't do that. We do an accurate reporting. In part of this change, you see executive compensation has come down at the NRA. We don't have lobbyists making, seven figures. So that impacts the money spent. We're still right there on Capitol Hill. We have a dedicated office just a couple hundred yards from the closest House office building. There's 7 full-time employees there. We're looking to add another one. So a lot of the spending that has been done in the past was on very expensive consultants. And some of those have absolute value, don't get me wrong. But ILA is a lean, mean machine right now, and we're efficiently representing our members on Capitol Hill. But look for a renewed investment in that space.
As an NRA Life member, I can say I could probably speak for all of us that we appreciate that that's where our money is going. So that's great. And so the second question that Joe has is, New Jersey appeared to be much more purple in 2024 than anyone ever expected. Given that massive shift and how tight the last gubernatorial race was, and with only 2 gubernatorial races in the United States, in the entire country happening in 2025, can New Jersey gun owners count on an increased commitment to the state in the form of supporting pro 2A candidates here?
We leave it on the field after every election. Doug Hamlin talked about this at our seminar we had at the Great American Outdoor Show. The reason we ask for money all the time is because we just got off an expensive election cycle where we left it all in the field. We spend the dollars that come in. So for NRA Political Victory Fund, money that comes in will be spent in those races. We're going to have a very expensive Virginia gubernatorial election. Glad to see they cleared the field on the Republican primary side, and we have a really strong candidate, Winsome Sears, running there. But from New Jersey, look, we've talked about this. I grew up in New Jersey. I grew up in Salem County, exit 1 of the Turnpike. I understand the pain that New Jersey gun owners go through. And look, at 2023, Citarelli brought it in within a couple points of Governor Murphy, or in that last election. So you look at Steve Sweeney losing. He was a staple there in the Senate, and losing to somebody who spent less than $200 on their campaign. So we've seen a dramatic shift in the political winds in New Jersey. President Trump made that state competitive. So depending on the candidates, I think New Jersey absolutely can be a purple state. But if the resources come in here to NRA, we will absolutely be involved in New Jersey. We're going to be involved in one way or another with volunteers on the ground, knocking doors, with contacting our members to let them know who supports your rights and, most importantly, who doesn't. But we will be engaged in New Jersey and Virginia off-year elections.
So let's talk about this wonderful situation we find ourselves in. For less than a month, we've had President Donald Trump and Vice President J.D. Vance in the White House. And that's great for gun owners and conservatives in general. So what would you say the NRA's role was in helping them get there?
NRA made an 8-figure plus investment in the 2024 election cycle. Those funds came directly from our members. If you think about it, NRA PVF is limited to a maximum of $5,000 per member per year. So if you're going to spend $15 million, let's say, that just shows the commitment from our membership, because the average contribution is $30 to $40. So think about how many members that takes to get to that number. And that just shows what the true power of NRA is. It's not necessarily the lobbyists on the Hill. It's the fact that our members show up on election day, and at a rate of 97%. So we have an unbelievable turnout from our membership. That allows us to focus on getting that message to low propensity gun owners. NRA focused this past cycle on 1.5 million low propensity gun owners in battleground presidential states, many of which overlapped with some of our key Senate race states. So if you look at Pennsylvania, 323,000 gun owners fit into a profile that we set, which was they voted in 2020, but they didn't vote, they voted in 2016, but they sat out 2020. We went after them. I call it polite harassment. We were on their phones, we were in their social media, we're on their TV, on the radio, in their mailbox. So sometimes knocking on their door. So we wanted to remind them of the importance of voting, and also voting early. We saw a bigger push for voting early this year. President Trump lost Pennsylvania in 2020 by approximately 80,000 votes. This year, out of that target file we hit, over 50,000 voted before Election Day. So we showed that this works, and we're expanding this exact formula into additional states. We're going to be starting on April 1st right in Wisconsin, where there's a critical state Supreme Court race where the former Attorney General Brad Schimmel's running to get a seat on that Supreme Court. And for many listeners, they may wonder why we're talking about a Wisconsin Supreme Court race. But redistricting is going to be decided by this Supreme Court, and that could very well decide the House majority in the United States Congress. So it's a critically important race, and we're going to make a big investment there as well. But it showed that gun owners came out to the polls on November 5th, and you're seeing the fruits of that now with a pro-gun president, a pro-gun Congress, and this executive order that he just did. I mean, we haven't seen anything like that in government, especially at that speed. So your vote counted, and we sure are glad you went out on November 5th.
There was a great turnout for the election. It was really great. Was it really a 97% turnout?
Yeah, yep,
Wow.
It's amazing. They turn out and they vote. And there's, additionally, I always tell folks, there's always been concerns that if you vote early, your vote doesn't count. Try it next cycle, and I'll tell you one little key metric. If the annoying text messages stop and the ads stop, your vote counted, because everyone's scrubbing these voter data rolls on a daily basis to see if their target voter voted early. And that's what allows you to spend $2 on the next person who might need a little bit more of a push to get to the polls. So if you don't think your vote counted, try voting early in this next election. And if the ads stop and the mail stops, you know it counted.
That's a great message to the my vote doesn't count types. Other than the obvious financial considerations, what are other ways that members can support the NRA?
Yeah, first, I mean, make sure you're following us on our social media channels, both on X, Instagram, Facebook, Truth. I mean, we're everywhere. We get the message out. We try to be very active there. And if you're not signed up for our email alerts, if you go to NRA-ILA.org, you hit the menu button, you'll see a tab there for sign up for alerts. On every Monday, you'll get a comprehensive grassroots alert that has a roundup of everything happening on the state level. There's in-depth research articles there. There's activity on the federal level. And most importantly, if you're signed up for our alerts, if there is a legislative action that's occurring in your state, we will contact you with a convenient and easy way to contact your elected official, whether that's in Congress or in the state legislature, or sometimes even at the county and city level. And that, again, that's our most powerful tool. Lawmakers know that if they bring up Second Amendment legislation, they're going to hear from a lot of gun owners, and we try to keep you as informed as we can all the way throughout the process, so you know exactly what's going on. And we're doing that right now in New Mexico, Colorado, New York, all these other states that are running anti-gun bills right now. We're trying to keep our members as informed as possible.
So this is the last question. It's really just personal preference. What is your favorite firearm to train with?
I shoot a Glock 19 for range time. Obviously, I have a couple different Glocks for personal carry that fit the situation. It's nice that this time of year you can carry a bigger gun because we're all wearing layers. But I have a Daniel Defense M4 platform AR for that type of firearm. We obviously here at NRA obviously have access to quite a few firearms. NRA-ILA has a nice armory of NFA items of everything under the sun, so we can take people out when they train. And then for shooting, I shoot for sporting clays, I shoot a Krieghoff K80. It is an expensive gun, but it's a workhorse. The service interval on that gun is 30,000 rounds. So you get what you pay for there. And then I'm a Beretta gas-operated semi-auto shotgun shooter for my hunting. So 28 gauge for pheasants and a 3.5-inch 12 gauge for ducks. And then I have quite a few rifles for big game. So I have a pretty good selection of things to choose from, but it just depends on what type of shooting I'm doing that day.
All right. Well, John, thank you so much for your time today. And thank you for joining us and speaking with our audience members. We hope to see you in Atlanta in April at the NRA annual meetings.
Yes, sir. Thanks for having me. Happy to be on anytime.